Introducing Shop, Click, and Pick, the simplest way to support those doing good. We understand that shopping is a necessity, but with a slight adjustment, you can make a big difference. Here's how it works. Visit communitypayitforward.us and navigate to the Find Your Partners tab. Discover our verified giving partners, trusted allies ready to meet your needs. Shop with any partner that resonates with you. Click a picture of your receipt or invoice. Pick the mission partner you wish to support and use their QR code to send the receipt to us. Then, all you have to do is sit back and enjoy your purchase, knowing you've made a meaningful change for someone in need. Community Pay It Forward amplifies your business's impact by sharing your story with those who require your services, rallying support for those who need us all. Because no one needs to go it alone. When we all come together.
Brand new week, brand new show. Hello, everyone. I'm Zach Clayton, Community Pay It Forward, Community Dare to Care, and the PAC channels. I hope everyone had a great Easter. For some reason, I almost said Thanksgiving. Turkey, bunny, it's all food, or beautiful animals. Sorry, PETA. I didn't mean to do that. But hope everyone had a wonderful Easter with their family and friends. I know we are getting ready because on Friday we get to go and see our family. We get to meet our granddaughter for the very first time. So we're pretty excited about that. So our Easter's coming a week late, but hey, in this house, if you're a week late, you're a couple months early. So, just kind of the way it goes. Hey, we got a couple things that we really would like to talk to you about. We have now left the month of brain injury awareness. I want to thank Jeff Pearson from Hydra with Hope for everything he's done this last month to help us out. Again, this was very important to us because I suffered the brain injury after the motorcycle accident. And it's really important that we make sure that people understand what it's like for people and kind of give a little bit of a hint to those who might be starting to go through it and how many different types of brain injuries there are. It just doesn't mean that somebody was sitting there with a melon baller trying to take out, something from your ear. There are, people who are born with problems. There are people who develop them over the time, and unfortunately time happens to be one of the biggest problems with Alzheimer's. So there were so many stories there. I would like to ask you, keep that up, keep it up. Let's make sure that we continue to tell the stories and continue to learn more about the struggles of people with brain injuries. We have now entered into a new month. And once again, we are going to focus on different aspects of life. I don't want to make it all about the doom and gloom and everything, But this one is very serious, and we've entered into Child Abuse Awareness Month, and I just could not let this one go without talking to people who have experience or who have had experienced this kind of thing and how it affects them. We're also looking for nonprofits who want to come on and talk to us about what they do to help victims recover from child abuse. So if you know anybody, the little QR code up here on the corner can help contact you to me, connect you to me, contact you to me. Trying to find the puppet master behind me pulling the strings because I don't know what contact you to me is. So anyway, but yes, use the little QR code in the corner, and we will let's talk. Let's see what we can do. Help kids and help those who suffered and are trying to move on with their lives. My guest today is, and this is kind of funny because this is one of those interviews that I'm not sure if I am I'm not sure if I'm qualified to do this interview. My wife, however, would be perfect for this because there's a lot of things that Wendy does that is right down my wife's her purview with the crystals and some of the other services. Let's see here. The services she has are crystals and healing and energy medicine, life coaching, crystal healing, intuitive reading, numerology reading, tuning fork, and sound therapy. So, like I said, these are the kind of things that that my wife really gets into. So it would, hey Jennifer, it would be really interested. I know that she, as a matter of fact, Jennifer, you would be into this one as well. So thank you for joining me. But my guest today is Wendy Watson. And I'm just going to go on ahead and bring her on. She's got a book, and we're going to be talking about that too. Wendy Watson with TBR Spiritual Health. How are you doing, Wendy?
I am fabulous. How are you today, Zach?
I'm a little apparently tongue-tied, and I don't know if my tongue's swollen or what's going on, but it's an interesting thing for me. So, Wendy, this is I love your tagline, from frazzled to fabulous. Let's unleash your inner calm. That's really exciting for what we're trying to do, because we're trying to make sure that people find a way to relax and not over stress themselves and get themselves out of that difficult mindset that they have all the time. You've got, as I mentioned just a minute ago, you have a variety of things that you do. And I've got a dog that just opened the bathroom and the wash machine, so that's awesome. But here we go. But what are some of the other things that you have had great experience with, and things that people have come to you for?
So I have helped a 5-year-old overcome nightmares from falling 40 feet off a ski lift. I have helped their father overcome the trauma of that, because he was sitting in the seat with him when his kid slipped underneath the rails and fell, and he honestly thought his son died, until he went and found him and found out that he was still alive, but he was going to need some major recovery. I have helped people overcome the thoughts of suicidal tendencies. I'm working with someone right now who, after just one session with me, has overcome her chronic nightmares that she has had for years. So she went from having a nightmare every single day for several years to only having 2 in the first month with me. I have helped save marriages. I've helped people get out of bad marriages. There's so many things that I can help people with. I've helped somebody reduce their hyperthyroid by 30 points in just one energy session.
What where does life coaching come into all this? Because it's like life coaching in the in in the mix of everything that you do is kind of one of those things that it's like one of these things is not like the other. Which one is it? You know, and life coaching is the one that kind of sticks out a little bit, you know, from everything else.
Right. So life coaching is really about how to organize your life and what works for you, what self-care tools, routines, what communication styles, how to improve or deepen your relationships, either with yourself or with other people or with any existential beliefs or theologies that you have. It's really about how to help you guide through your life, how to help you manage your workflow, manage being a mom and a wife and a daughter and all the things that you have going on, or how to be a man and a business owner and a husband and a pet caretaker and all of the different things that we have going on in our lives. It's like, how can I help you to manage that in a better way? And where I come in with the spiritual help as well is, how can I help you in a better way while also being in connection with your spirit and operating in alignment with it?
Do you utilize the other things like the energy medicine, the
Mhm.
sound healing? Do
So
you utilize all those others in that coaching?
it all depends on the person. The energy medicine, most definitely, because we don't really realize how much our body holds on to, and the energetic memory of things that we are holding on to. So, what I have learned through my personal experience of going through the process on my own is that by clearing out the energy memory, you then clear out the muscular memory, the mental memory, the emotional memory of it. And that is the crucial point of being able to move past it and either change the mindset, change the habit, or change the imprint that's been developed.
So tell me your story. Why did you start?
It's okay. My cat's like zooming around the apartment too. He's so
The
sweet.
troublemaker right here.
Yeah.
Why did you start TBR spiritual health? What's the story behind all that?
So what, man, there's a story. So when I was 8, my parents divorced. And for me, that was very traumatic. You know, these are the people that are supposed to guide us and show us what this environment is like and show us what love is and what it's meant to be a human. And they completely destroyed my family and tore us apart. And so that was very traumatic. I still don't remember a lot of my childhood memories. And that led to a lot of anger, which then my mom decided to spoil us because she felt guilty. So add in angry communication with being spoiled, and you got a bad mixture of not being able to find or cultivate healthy relationships or being emotionally or socially intelligent or mature. And so I fell into similar patterns, and I found 2 ex-husbands that were emotionally abusive, psychologically abusive, anything but, I mean, they weren't physical or sexually abusive, but all the other things, they were addicts or alcoholics, which was a representation of my family and my upbringing. So, not a big surprise there. But after my second divorce and loss of a child, At that time, I was a massage therapist, and I noticed that I really gravitated towards the energy modalities. And so I got this book called Energy Medicine by Dr. Donna Eden, and it completely changed my life. It changed my narrative. It changed everything about my experience in my life so far. And it just set me on a whole new trajectory, being able to clear all these negative energy patterns and imprints and everything that I had developed. And I just wanted to bring that on to other people and help other people on a much deeper level than what psychology and massage therapy and verbal coaching can do. I mean, mindset coaching is great, habit coaching is amazing, but when you can actually release the energy pattern from the body, from your spirit, it's a whole nother level of therapy. And so I just want to have a more deeper and more profound legacy and help with other people to be able to get past this so that they can be a better version for themselves. And so at the end of 21, I got called to close my massage business in Phoenix that I've developed over 10 years and move up to a state called Denver, called Colorado, where I'd never been to,
I've heard
didn't
of
know
that place.
anybody. And didn't have a job, and to start all over again and to rebrand. And so I've spent the last year and 4 months or whatever it's been developing this business and all my offerings and getting clients in. And it's really been, when you can save somebody from suicidal tendencies and give them a whole new outlook on life, and they just see this bright future ahead of them, like there's just nothing more profound or more fulfilling than that.
What did you have to get over that happened in your own experience? What did you have to, and I don't know if get over is actually the right way to say it. I think maybe push through or
Work
build
through.
yourself above. What did you have to get past to be able to feel like you could help someone else?
Oh, there was a lot of emotional trauma with my childhood, not just from my parents divorcing, but the step families that they brought in and all the trauma, all the chaos. Man, there was just a lot of chaos. And I've been asked by friends of the family that knew it, that was around back then, like how I came out so sane. And because both of my step families were lying and stealing from each other and lying and stealing from us. Like it was chaotic. So number one, learning that life doesn't have to be chaotic, that you can be a busy, productive person and contribution to this community without living in chaos. You can still have all of that. You can still go mountain biking and rock climbing and run 3 or 4 or 5 businesses and have kids and have a full family life without feeling frazzled and without feeling like there's a bunch of turmoil and without having conflict all the time. Like conflict is going to happen. There's no doubt about that. You can't control outside sources. It's how much time you spend being triggered. It's not whether or not you're being triggered. It's about how much time you spend being triggered. And to me, that's the key to everything.
This is a question that there are times that I've struggled with, Wendy. How do you keep yourself from taking on the pain or the confusion of people that you work with? Because I know that there's sometimes that you as a person who cares for others.
Mhm.
And Jen, I would be really interested to hear your answer on this as well. But you as a person who cares about others, we've got it in our hearts, we've got it in our minds that we want to do everything we can. And knowing that we've done what we can do, but knowing, damn, if there was just this little more, we could do so much more. How do you avoid slipping into that?
Boundaries. It's all about boundaries. So for me, there's energetic boundaries, right? It's called your aura. You decide what is allowed into your space. So it's taking ownership of your boundaries, right? So one of the tips that I teach people, and I'll just go ahead and give it to your audience for free because it's amazing. Think about the alien ships in like in the movie Independence Day, right? And they go to start attacking the ships, and then you see the green force field around them, right? And the only way to be able to penetrate the ship is to be able to shut down and put a virus into the force field. Our aura is like our force field. And so if we can see things, if we visually imagine things bouncing off of our force field and not allowing them in unless we choose to let them in, is one set of boundaries. And then you have your spiritual boundaries. And then it's really a respectful boundary. It's like, even so, if you were my client and I was trying to coach you on something and it just wasn't taking, or you weren't willing to go that extra step, it's my respect for you that is your free will to choose to do whatever it is that you choose to do. If you choose to follow my guidance, great. If you choose not to, that's your prerogative. That's your free will to make that decision. And I respect your free will to make that decision. I respect your prerogative. So if you choose not to do it, I respect that. That's on you. I'm not going to take that in because it doesn't serve me.
Okay. What are some of your favorite things to practice now that you've made this transformation into this field?
So I practice prayer, meditation, spiritual baths. I practice, exercise. I love going out for a walk around the lake several times a week, or going for a hike somewhere where I am in nature and can get grounded. There's just so many things. Eating well, just, treating my body as the temple that it is, and making sure that I'm eating right for myself. Reading positive things, reading educational things, TV, and making sure that I have quality relationships around me, and that I can be myself with the people that I choose to surround myself with.
You've written this book, Verbal Turbulence, and that was even hard for me to say, which is terrible. But tell us a little bit about verbal turbulence.
Man, with all the angry and selfish communication that I had, I really left people in tears when I would address my issues. I'd literally just walk into a room, go walk right up to the person that I needed to address something with, regardless of the environment, regardless of what they were doing, say what I felt I needed to say, and then turn around and leave them crying. And, that was representative of a lot of my relationships, because a lot of us have a lot of turbulence that's going on up here because we just don't know how to communicate, either externally or internally with ourselves. And so one of my bosses gave me the 70-20-10 rule, and I really started looking at it in the lens of communication, to quantify communication so that I can narrow down all the static of what somebody is saying to me, to find the 10% of nuggets that's really important to me or to the conversation, but also to quantify the communication that I'm having with somebody. If I'm having a conversation with somebody and only 10% of our conversation is valuable, do I want to spend more time with that person? If the amount of communication that I'm having with somebody, if 70% of that is valuable, I want to spend more time with that person, because that is a healthier relationship and it's a healthier form of communication with each other.
And so for those who have never heard of it, can you explain the 70-20-10?
Yes. So my boss gave it to me in terms of accounting. And he said, as long as 70% of the invoices go through without an incident, 20% get escalated to management, and 10% we write off. That is our goal. And that gave me permission to not be perfect. And so I looked at it, it's like, okay, so I demonstrate the 70-20-10 rule 16 different ways in my book, in business metrics and in communication. So in communication, it's how much of this conversation is valuable. Is it 70%? Is it 20%? Or is the most valuable? Or is it the 10%? Right? All communication is good and valuable. I don't believe in 0%. There's value in it somewhere, even if it's learning what not to say or what doesn't work for me. Right? It's all valuable. But how much of it is the most valuable and how much of it is the least valuable? But also in terms of ourselves, how are we communicating with ourselves? Is 70% of it positive gratitude statements, or is 70% of it negative shaming statements, right? It's just quantifying how we're communicating, but you can also use it in terms of business. If 70% of your employees are happy, productive employees, 20% are under needs improvement, and 10% are your new hires and fires, would you not consider that a successful employee?
I really would. My problem is that I've got me, which is my only employee, and he's kind of 50-40-10 sometimes. So he's a little unruly at times. But
right.
How important are your tools to somebody who has problems communicating with others? Or is yours mainly really to try to focus on communicating with yourself first?
So the way I used it for myself was that if I could discern the external communication first, then I'm dealing with less static in order to be able to hear myself and to be able to communicate with myself first, right? Because I'm taking less in. So I'm not having to deal with that as much. So now I have the energy and the resources to be able to focus on my own internal communication. Other people need to do the internal before they do the external, which is fine. There's no judgment, whatever works for you. It would just help me to shut off some of the traffic that was coming in so that I could tune in and be aware of how I was communicating to myself.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, completely. So let's go on ahead and let's I know what I wanted to ask you. On your website, you have this listed as intensives,
Spiritual intensives.
Thank you.
Yes.
Explain that, please, because that sounds, for a guy who doesn't really know, that sounds dangerous. A little bit. So,
okay.
Yeah, sorry about again,
It's okay.
not my thing, but
it's all right. So it's just it's more than a program. It's more than a workshop. It's more than a summit, right? It's more of an intensive. We're going to get down into the nitty gritty and figure out what it is that you need to release, what it is that you need to renegotiate with yourself, right? If there's any contracts that you need to renegotiate or tear up and change up, like we get really deep. That's why it's called an intensive, because it can get intense. It can get down and dirty, and it'll bring up stuff that that you may not have known was there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I offer 6 weeks, 90 days, 6 months, whatever program works for you, wherever you're at in your journey.
Okay. I'm really interested and curious to learn more about this. Establish validation in your self-worth. What are you looking to see happen there?
I want people to find their own self-worth and to feel worthy of anything that they want to achieve in this life, right? Whether it's healthy relationships, whether it's finances, whether it's health in general, they are worth it. They deserve it. And I want them to not just know it, I want them to feel it. I want them to feel deep down inside that they are worth everything that they have ever dreamed of and that they can accomplish it.
Okay. What are the biggest things that people have to overcome to get to that point?
Imprints that other people have put on us or that we have developed over the years. So, we are given, when we're born, right? We don't know anything about this life. And so our community is what teaches us. So it wasn't, for me, it wasn't any big thing when my first husband, he used to drink a case of beer, like a whole 24 pack in 2 or 3 days. That was an imprint that was given to me by my community that raised me, that made me think that that was normal, that was okay. And if that's okay for that person, that's great, but it's not okay for me. So changing some of those imprints, changing some of those things that we were reared with that may have worked for other people, but figuring out what works for me and what doesn't. Right? So there may be an imprint that you have if you're the oldest child and you have a younger sibling, there may be an imprint that you have where the younger sibling always got away with everything.
Yep.
Right? They got away with a heck of a lot more than the older sibling did. That's an imprint that we have. We can choose to change that if we want to. But we have to choose to change it, and we have to choose what to change it to.
Do you have to accept that things are different for different people in order to really understand that change?
100%. Yeah, because we're all unique. We all have our own unique brain patterns. We all have our own unique experiences, right? One of the best metaphors I was given that I absolutely love is this one. It's a kind of a story. This woman goes into a movie theater and buys a ticket to go see a movie. She goes and she gets her popcorn, she gets her soda and all the other goodies, and she goes into theater 1 and realizes that it's the story of her life from her perspective. So she leaves and she goes into theater 2 and realizes it's the story of her life from her mother's perspective. She leaves, she goes into theater number 3, it's the story of her life from her father's perspective. And so on and so forth until she comes back to theater 1. And it makes so much more sense because now she understands that there's different lenses of how people see the same exact story.
That makes a lot of sense. It really does. Let's go on ahead and go through all of your services, and can you just explain to people what they all entail? The first one we have is energy medicine.
So in energy medicine, we have 9 different energy systems. most people have heard of the auras, the chakras, and the meridians, and maybe even the 5 elements. But then we also have our electrics, our triple warmer, our basic grid, our Celtic weave, and one other component that's fading me at the moment. And they all have a different role in our different energy systems, and they all hold something different. So they have a different role, they hold something different. And so being able to work with the 9 different energy systems and to be able to clear them, like it's great if you can clear your chakras, but if you can clear so the basic grid is like the foundation of all the energy systems. So imagine a piece of chicken wire laid in concrete, and that's kind of how it looks to me in the body. And so if you have a break in that chicken wire, then you have a break, right? So if you have a crack in your house foundation, what happens? It starts going up the walls eventually, right? And you start having bigger problems. It's the same thing with our basic grid. If we have a break in our basic grid, it starts throwing off all the other energy systems. So if we can get to the actual foundation of the issue and fix that, then everything else will start healing itself as well.
And by energy medicine, you're not prescribing drugs, but you're using energy as the medicine.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. There's no drugs. There's no medicinal, whether it's plant, herbal, prescription. There's nothing like that. There's no.
I just heard all over the internet on that one. So
I don't have that level of education.
So
Yes.
you've already talked a little bit about the life coaching, but was there anything else that you wanted to touch on the life coaching, or like when it comes to do you prefer doing a single life coaching, or is there like a family life coaching process or anything like that you work on?
I most certainly do group classes and individual sessions. I don't do couples because I like to address the person, right? So to me, a couple has 3 relationships. There's your relationship with yourself. There's the other person's relationship with their self. And then those 2 people create a relationship together. So I address the person and then let the people figure out their relationships. So I do,
Yeah, isn't that almost in line with there's his truth, her truth, and the truth?
Yeah.
So yeah, okay.
Right.
This is one that is very familiar to me. Crystal healing.
Yeah. Yeah. So different crystals, different geostones or geodes, all have their own different components to it, their own different makeups, and their own different healing assets to themselves. So I'll use the clear crystals to do one thing. Yep. I talked to somebody today that had a piece of menzonite, and I was like, for him, that particular person, I was like, that is very protective for you. You feel protective when you have that on your person. He's like, oh, 100%. Right. So it's not only about the healing properties that the crystal or the stone has, but it's also what it represents for that person or what it does for that particular person. So I have, I don't know, 20, 30 stones at this point, between rose quartz, clear quartz, and a whole gamut of other things that I use based off the guidance that I get to use it for that person.
Jennifer would like to know if you do this virtual or all in person.
Both. So I do it virtual and in person. Luckily, I've been gifted with a very strong energy to be able to do it virtually, and my clients see a very big improvement with it.
And they just come to if they come to your website, the first thing that you're going to see, it says book online. It also gives you an opportunity to take and connect with you as well.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So, intuitive reading. I can't believe I messed up on that one.
It's okay. It's okay. My tongue gets lazy sometimes too.
Jeez.
I'll listen back to some of my interviews and stuff, and I'll be like, I just learned those 2 words together.
Yep. Yeah, I've made up some of the best words ever. At least I thought I did.
As a kid, I needed speech therapy because I couldn't pronounce my S's.
Yeah.
So,
Oh. Yeah. Yep, that's for sure. So Jennifer took part in our wedding. She did a bonding ceremony on my wife.
That's awesome.
On my wife and I, and my son flew in from Japan, and he was the one who he was the he ended up getting himself ordained, so he performed the ceremony. We had to convince him it was not getting endowed, it was getting ordained. But then Jennifer took a huge part in the wedding as well by doing a binding ceremony. So that's she's means a lot to me. So yes, what all goes into the intuitive readings?
Well, first I ask permission. To me, it's a moral and ethical standards to always ask the person, even if that's what they booked for. Like once I meet with them, I still have to ask them permission to be able to read them or access their spirit guides or God on their behalf, whatever their theology is. And then we connect. Either if it's virtual, then I'll just connect through channeling. If we're in person, I'll get our hands close together, and then I open up my channels, and based off their questions or their intentions for the session, I'll just ask for that wisdom and whatever messages that they need to hear to come through. Even if it's with somebody that's passed. So I have there's 8 clairs, and I have 6 of them well developed. So I can talk to spirit world, whether that's an ancestor, whether that's God, whether that's a particular guide. I can communicate with all of that, or if there's just information that they want to get regarding a trauma or a past relationship or something that they're working on, or a work choice. Maybe they're thinking about leaving one job and think about taking another one. Whatever their intention is for that session, I just open up my channels and I bring the information in that's in their best interests.
Okay. Numerology readings.
So numbers are the language of the universe. Whether you talk to an astrophysicist, a scientist, or somebody in the spirit world, they will all tell you the same thing. The universe communicates in the form of numbers. And math is a universal language, even amongst ourselves, right? Math is used in cooking, construction, you name it. It's in every industry that you can think of. And there's a lot of numerology to me. There's a lot of good information, and it helps you to understand. It's a rule of thumb. Don't get me wrong. It's just a rule of thumb. It's not a hard, fast rule. But it gives you a lot of good information about yourself and understanding you and what your purpose here is in this life and where you're at in your 9-year cycle. So in numerology, there's a 9-year cycle. With everybody that I've ever presented numerology to, even if they didn't know what it was or they were a skeptic, once I showed them the information, they were just completely blown away. And the majority, not all of it, but the majority of it did resonate with them. And it's all about what part of the information resonates with you and how can you use that information to move forward with the goals that you have in your life.
With this, do you try to find numbers that are particular to a person, or what's the goal of the numbers themselves?
Okay, so there's different aspects of numerology. You have your life path. You have your person, which means that this is the meaning of the life that you chose for this lifetime. You have your personal year, which is the year that you're in the 9-year cycle. You have your destiny number, which kind of helps you define what your destiny is. So for me, my destiny is freedom and independence, which is very symbolic of everything that I've ever done in this life. And so it just helps you to be in relationship with yourself. And then I have pulled numerology reports on people that I know their birthdays, or I've asked for their permission so that I know how to be in relationship with them.
Okay.
So that I understand what their life purpose is, what their personality styles, where they're at in their cycles, so I can be more empathetic and I can use that knowledge to be in better relationship with them.
All right. The next one is tuning fork, and I'm always flat, sorry.
So tuning, and I don't have it with me, but a tuning fork, for those that have never seen one, it kind of looks like a fork with a little stand on it. And when you use them for therapy purposes, there's also a little black it holds it, but it's also called an activator. And so you hit the tuning fork on the activator and it vibrates to a particular frequency based off how it or why it was made. So the one in the picture is a mid-ohm tuning fork, and it's used for many things. It's used for deep relaxation. It's used for anti-inflammation. It's used for recalibrating. A lot of people with migraines and headaches, I'll use it near their ears to recalibrate the crystals that are in our ears to help with the headaches, or use it on the back of their scalp to de-inflame, I guess, to reduce the inflammation on the back of the neck muscles, which are the primary causes for headaches.
Well, that sounds very nice, to be honest with you.
It's very pleasant.
Yeah, is this in that where people believe like different vibrations and well, within your own body there are different vibrations that cause different reactions to
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep. So just like music, which is a great example, most music that you hear on the radio, except for classical music, is all produced at a 440 megahertz frequency. And then you have higher frequency music, like classical music is produced at 800 and something. And then you have binaural beats and theta music that are produced at like 856 or above. And so there's there's science where they take grains of salt or grains of sand and they place it on a metal plate. And when they play the lower frequency music, the grains of sand are kind of scattered, not very organized. And then when they play the higher frequency music, the grains of sand go into organized patterns. And so they're more concise. And it's the same thing with our brains. So when we listen to higher frequency music or higher frequency sound, our brain and our neural processes and all the fluids get into more of an organized pattern. We can think better, we can sleep better, we have better cognitive abilities, all the things. So as we listen to lower frequency music, we're also lowering our frequency.
And then just that rolls into the last one here, which is sound therapy. I mean, it's different. It's just different sounds. I see that you have the drum on there, and I know that that the beats of a drum have effect on people. Can you explain that?
The beats of a drum, or really any instrument, right, has its own frequency. So each drum will have its own frequency depending on how it's made, depending on how you particularly beat it, what you're beating it with, right, how you're playing the drum. So the beats, the sound, your personal energy that goes into it, all the things have an effect on the sound that reverberates from it, the frequency that reverberates from the drum, and the intention that you put into it. So there's some drum beats that have been recorded in order to help you get into and come out of meditation. There's a lot of science around different instruments, including drums, that can help shift your energy, either make you more calm. When I am feeling gassy, I use it around my abdominals, and it helps with the bubblies that are going on at the time. So there's different. So a lot of people are familiar with the sound bowls, right? So that's one form of sound therapy. There's audio therapy where you use it via your own sound, and you put your fingers in your ears and you hum, and that can also change your frequency and start some healing processes. So it all depends on like what sound works for you. I just particularly choose the drum.
Isn't there also a way that they can go with the bone conduction behind the ear? They do something that back behind the ear. I know that when after my motorcycle accident, that's how they were able to tell that I was deaf for good, is that they tried to tap on that bone back there, and they say, "Do you hear anything?" And I was like, "No." And they're like, "Well, we're sorry to tell you, but your hearing is gone." Because that, now they've got the headphones that don't go in your ear, they go back here, and people can hear just as clear. So, and it's better for your eardrum.
Right. And so you may not be able to hear. So people hear in different frequencies too. So it would be interesting to know whether or not you're deaf to the lower tones or the higher tones, or just everything completely. I mean, it's clearly not everything completely, because you can hear me, right? So it could also just be the frequency of the music that or the tone of whatever it is that they're playing that you may not be able to hear.
Well, I can definitely hear you, and I'm going to get myself in. I'm going to get myself in trouble here. We're not married yet, so I can definitely hear you. So, just saying. And of course, that is really going to get me in trouble, especially with one of my wife's very best friends watching the show. But yeah. So I tell people that I've got that built-in excuse, with being deaf in the one ear, and then Adrian just goes, "Yeah," and you just don't pay attention with the other. So I'm like,
right.
But so what? Let me ask you this, and this is one of the questions that I really hope helps people out there. Wendy, when people come to you, what is the first thing that you want them to think about?
Being safe.
Okay.
I have no judgment, and I'm just here to support you in whatever your journey looks like, whether it involves me or not. So even if we just have a 30-minute chat, I just want you to feel safer to be you and safer to be in your space, even if it's just an incremental more than what it was before we met. That is my number one goal, is for people to feel safer around me than they did before they met me.
How are you doing now after all of the trauma that you've experienced? How do you feel personally?
It's actually making me a little emotional right now. I feel happier than I've ever felt. I have the best, I have a new boyfriend, and I have the best relationship I've ever had. And he really makes me feel safe, right? That's a really important thing for
Yeah.
women in general, is to feel safe. And for me to get myself to a place where I can accept it, right? It's one thing if that person presents itself to you, it's another thing that you have to be able to accept it. And so me accepting myself and committing to the mission that I'm on to help other people, and being able to allow other people to come in and support me. And really, I'm living my dream right now.
Something very curious to me. You were just talking about the accepting. A lot of that has to do with, and I don't want to just put this on guys, because there are ladies out there who do the same
Oh,
thing,
yes.
but we know how to play the game when we first meet somebody to fool them into us being someone.
Yeah.
Is this one of the problems why we don't do ourselves any good by rushing into situations, by looking past warning signs?
Yes, absolutely. One of the best things I ever heard from Steve Harvey is, I don't collect red flags. And what we do as humans, because we're so looking for that love that we're needing, and almost to a point of having rose-colored glasses, or being love blind, right? Or being in that desperation mode. Like when I met my first husband, I woke up that morning, I wasn't so desperate for a man to love me that I woke up that morning and said, I'm going to find my husband today. And the first person that I connected with, I just latched onto, right? And ignored all of the signs, did not see them at all whatsoever. And so sometimes we'll reason it away. Oh, well, it's just because of this, or it's just because of that. Oh, well, he's going through a rough, or she is going through a rough time right now. I'm going to give her a month or two to be able to work through it. Or they told me that they're going to start improving, so I want to give them a chance, and then give them a chance, and then give them a chance, and then give them another chance. And by then we are so invested, emotionally invested into the relationship, that it's then hard to get out of it, because you put so much into it. And the thought of starting all over again with a whole nother relationship,
Yeah.
or the thought of, some people just don't like being single, and so they'll go from relationship to relationship because they don't want to be single. They don't want to have to operate this life by themselves. And it is exhausting. But for me personally, I would much rather be single than be in a bad relationship again.
Yeah. Yeah. I know that I'm very close to somebody who put themselves through hell for about 20 some odd years, and being unhappy through most of it, just because didn't like change, and
Right. Or
was afraid of other things. So yeah, and I mean it.
Or
I
they try and stay together for the kids.
Right.
But what example are you giving your kids?
Yep. Very, very much so. Well, Wendy, I want to thank you so very much for coming on and talking to us today. Your website is tbrspiritualhealth.com.
Yes.
And you got a place where people can go on there and they can contact you at the bottom of the first page. Matter of fact, I think it's pretty much on the bottom of every page, but there is a mailing list place where they can contact you. all of your contact information, including your phone number, 720-782-6090, 720-782-6090, and your email address, which is Wendy at tbrspiritualhealth.com. That's Wendy at tbrspiritualhealth.com. Wendy, is there anything else that you would like to share with anybody before we end the show?
I think we've covered it, but just love yourself. Just lead with love and with yourself more than first, not more than anything else, but lead with love with yourself, and be a little bit kinder, and see how you can talk to yourself a little bit nicer, or do a random act of kindness, either for yourself or for somebody.
Yeah. I appreciate you so much being on here. It's been we met late last month, and it's been wonderful. We've been talking and meeting each other at other meetings, and I'm really enjoying this. I'm looking forward to working with you more throughout the time.
Yeah, me too. Thank you so much for having me on your show and giving me this opportunity. And I so look forward to what's on our path and on our journey with each other.
No, I agree with that. And to all of you, Monday is here again. This is just the beginning of a new week. Let's try to make this a great week for not only you, but make it a great week for someone else out there. Remember, the smallest things can change a life. Okay? Things that we don't think of. If you have an old hoodie that's in your closet that doesn't fit you anymore, don't throw it away if it's still in good shape. Don't put it in a yard sale. Do you really need the quarter that much? Put it in your car. Give it to somebody who's struggling with the elements. It's a small thing to you. It's a giant step for someone else. If you make too much food one night, throw it in the old hillbilly Tupperware in an old butter bowl. Take and zap it in the microwave. Get it to somebody in your area that you know is struggling with hunger. Again, little step to you, huge step to them. Look, we're all we've got. We need to take care of each other and ourselves. Please remember, if you're not helping anyone, you're hurting everyone. No one has to go it alone when we all come together. My name is Zach Clayton, Community Pay It Forward, Community Dare to Care, and the PAC channels. I will see you next week right here on Footprints Forward. Thank you very much.